And before I just start, I just want to say this. I'm not here to get anyone to believe anything. The last thing this world needs is another flipping bloke standing up saying, I've got all the answers, you must believe it, and that stuff. We've had enough of them. We've had enough of them. This is information. Take of it what you will, leave what doesn't feel right, and whatever. Because what you think of this is none of my business. It is your business and your reality, and you have a right to make of it whatever you will. So I'm not trying to persuade anyone. I'm just trying to say... here's another way of looking at the world. The way you look at the world is completely your choice, completely respected from here for a start. Now, a long, long time ago, well before what we call recorded history, the world was a global society, and it was an advanced global society. This is where these fantastic ancient structures came from. That, you know, the archaeologists and people saying, well, we couldn't build that today. How did they do it? Well, yeah, so you see that 400-ton stone, mate? You know what they did? They put some rope round it and got a few guys to pull it mile after mile. It's really brilliant, you know. I don't know how they did it. What about that hill? Oh, they're ever so strong. Yeah, all right. There was a global society. And for some reason, we can debate why, it don't really matter from where we are, for some reason this society became broken up. And it started to operate in isolation all over the world. But when it started out, all these different parts of the world, which now started working in isolation rather than as one whole, they still started off with that original advanced knowledge that was global at the time. And what's happened is this knowledge, as it's passed through the ages, I mean, some people talk about Atlantis, the name doesn't matter, it's this global society. As it passed through history, it took its own way in these different societies, isolated from each other at that time. They gave different names to symbolize it. They used different methods of expressing it. But it was all the same knowledge. I'll give you an example of what I mean. This is one of the things that I'll be following through the day, which I suppose it's relevant to introduce now. What happened with this knowledge is it was passing through a society to start with, and then it started being hijacked by the few. More and more, this Illuminati network, as it emerged, who had this advanced knowledge and wanted to take it from the people so that they had power over the people, which is what it gives them, they started taking it out of circulation as best they could in society in general. One of the wonderful ways they did this was the Inquisition, where they used Christianity to go into all these ancient societies and Christianize them. And in doing so, they took the knowledge that was still available, they took it out of circulation, it had to go underground. And by taking it out of circulation and giving them a false version of reality, and then keeping that knowledge to themselves at the top level of these compartmentalized pyramids, they did a magnificent job in sucking this knowledge out of the people's society and just passing it on to the chosen few through the secret society network. And this pyramid, the compartmentalized pyramid, where the people at the top control all the pyramids below them, this is how the few control all areas of society. But I'll get into that big time this afternoon. Now, this is where I was going. This is a great friend of mine, Credo Mutwa. He's a very famous Zulu shaman in South Africa. Wonderful, incredible, incredible man. Library on legs. He was initiated into this knowledge some 60 years ago. I mean, he's well into his 80s now. And in his words, when the European powers, and as we'll get to, the Illuminati-controlled European powers, came into Africa, they, quote, milked the minds of the shaman, found out what they knew, and then killed them. And what actually had to happen was the knowledge through African history, and it was the same in all these other ancient societies around the world, had to go underground into their own secret societies to pass it on so it survived. And when I was with him last, about 9 months or so ago, he threw the bones for me, as they call it. These are carved animal bones. These go back centuries, he said. And what they do, here's a closer look at them. What they do when they throw the bones is you put your hands over them. They're picking up your frequency field, and then they throw them. And they look at where they've fallen in relation to each other, in relation to you, and then they give you a reading of what they mean and what they say. And when he did it for me, his accuracy was extraordinary. Things he had no idea about that were happening in my life. But when he did it, this is the point I'm making, I thought, he's just thrown the rune stones up in Germany, in that area of the world. Hey, he's just read the tarot cards from another area of the world. What I'm saying is this same knowledge, once universal, went off in different directions and took different expressions, but it's the same knowledge. And this is the knowledge they have worked for centuries to take out of circulation, so that around the world we start to get a false version of who we are, a false version of reality, and a false version of what's happening on the planet. So this first global society broke up into different areas, but this Illuminati kept passing this knowledge through from the top level of that pyramid, and this is the knowledge that the people in control of the world actually still have, and they use it and on us, and they also put it in front of our eyes in terms of symbolism. This is known as the Seal of Atlantis, apparently. Versions of it have been found around the world. The seal, the circle. This is what they built for Bush when he was accepting the presidential nomination from the Republican Party. Because the top level of these organizations of power work with this knowledge all the time. And when we get to the last section, we'll see that it's not just symbolism for symbolism's sake, it's actually having an effect on us and the way we see the world. There's Bush, nice man, never goes home. And this is the Republican celebration that Bush was again going to be their presidential candidate. So, here's Bush, one of these bloodlines. Interbreeding is not a great thing, it seems. One of these bloodlines that has gone through from the ancient world, as I'm going to come to in a second, because presidents are not created by or selected by ballot, they are selected by bloodline. There is another version of Bush's history, though, and I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of truth in it. I have great sympathy with this one. But somehow it becomes President of the United States. Something's wrong with the world. Now, when you start researching this, one area of the world, like I say, it happens all over the place, but one area of the world that really you start to pick off is this area here. What we now call Iraq and that area of the world, what a coincidence, what was once known as Sumer and Babylon. Babylon comes up again and again in Illuminati research. And what you find is a series of bloodline networks that were behind the Babylonian Empire when that was a massive, massive center of power. And they moved up into Italy, particularly to Rome, where they became the Roman Church and the Roman Empire. And then they moved up into Northern Europe, where they became the aristocracy and royal families, in truth, royal family of Europe. And then, through the empires, started to go global, the British Empire, etc. Now, in Babylon, I'm going to get into this in some detail soon, in Babylon, this advanced knowledge was held and was fundamental to the control of that society and the way it was run. And from this center, we have now reached a point of global Babylon, where the same situation is emerging globally as happened there. Of course, the Babylonian Empire